Okay. I don't know why it gets significantly darker when I put it on video. Oh, that's hella funny. A generic Raisin Bran in the background there. The slightly organized laundry and the Raisin Bran. Okay, so one of the things I really like, Aaron Clary has made me understand some things. You buy and invest in what really you buy and invest in. And I had to then really take like, the martial artist, the Zen mind, like the way Zen people really are. Like in real Zen places where it's like, no, you're doing what you want. What you are doing is what you desire to do. How don't you understand this? And that's also the Orthodox Christian mind. No, you are not being driven by some demon of no. It's when you want to do your best, you seem on your own to come up with this other idea. That only the temptation to do otherwise than your best, that is the daemon, this spirit that comes in the form of thought. It was already, as Rav Lightman, the Kabbalist, so I just to touch on this, what I have started to understand about the most popular Kabbalah people, Rav Lightman and his group, B'nai Baruch. Well, the whole thing is that they're considered a right-wing cult in Israel. So just so you understand, the hyping up of Kabbalah is actually as a strange historic thing, a strange historic cycle, seems to be a part of a neo-traditionalist movement that is technically right-leaning. Because if you know anything about their mentality, and that there is a light that reforms things, that the energies, as we would say as Christians, energies, that these energies improve the mortal being, but the mortal being has to be willing to receive, so receiving the light. There's a whole bunch of things that when I was getting into kooky wooky, like the world of so what are these right wingers talking about, the Illuminati, and so all this just kept falling into my lap. The world exemplification of Freemasonry, that's a thing. The world exemplification of Freemasonry, WEOFM, is a thing. This series of lectures and talks and presentations is amazing. Like, this is the Native American Masons, this is the Scottish guy talking about, what Freemasonry is in Scotland, and if you don't really understand that, the rest of it, like everything else pales in. There ain't no such thing as a Freemason outside of Scotland. I mean, in comparison, they were talking about hundreds of lodges. When the Grand Lodge was even proposed, the Grand Lodge of England, Scotland had hundreds of lodges, most of which never joined and became regular. So the world of spirituality, and then people, various types of thinkers, intellectuals, that we're seeing a type of industrialist elite that are enrobing themselves in acceptance of transgenders and environmentalism. Because, and of course, yes, I have seen the photos of the crazy outfits and the ritual items that Klaus Schwab and those other guys were holding in that photo. So he's in some kind of fraternity. He's in some kind of weird ass fraternity. And who even knows? Weird, really. It could be very rational. It could be some rationalist. Who knows? I mean, what's the Scalia? He was in a secret hunters fraternity, a Catholic hunters fraternity. It's secret society. So the thing that I find interesting is that there's a variety of ways that you could, if you look for it, you could see there's people who are trying to establish order. It's just, what are the guiding principles that they are attracting? Who are they attracting into it? How are they getting people to do various things? So there, it's just one of these things that I've started to try to wrap my mind around. Oliver Semyogog has done some of the best work and best interviews on all of this. But to get real substantive, like how the Rosicrucians really had, the Rosicrucians and Freemasonry were key to Protestantism becoming the power it could even be in coming up with a level of society of intellectuals and low nobles and even high nobles. If anybody knows about the Illuminati Lodge, even high nobles that were very interested in a wide array of ideas that Catholic thinking itself didn't think, like real individualism, or the idea of a nation state, and that people should vote. Like, this is an idea that would be very odd to, like, Christian, Orthodox and Catholic priests would have had to debate whether this would be a good idea, whether this would make sense. Nobody thought it was. Remember, in the beginning, nobody really thought universal suffrage was a good idea. So, eventually became something that you just couldn't stop. You couldn't stop the riots. You just couldn't stop the riots. And at some point you had to conscript. So these men were like, no. Why? They tried to conscript people who were like, no, we're not doing that. No. We don't feel like fighting in this for this. Thank goodness, Greater Appalachia, whoop whoop. And a lot of people, they do have to thank those wild and crazy white folks. The wild and crazy white folks, because without them, you wouldn't have universal suffrage. They were the kind of people who would be like, I don't have a say in none of this. Fuck you. Here's my flock. Here's my people. Here's my land. Fuck you. Fuck you. Yeah, I don't know how to read. I know how to say fuck you. Maybe if I had a say in things, it'd be a different story. So, with that, fixing up my little Thanksgiving drink. Like to conk out nice and early. Got a steak in the oven. Cenk fucked up. Nobody who's been pulled into the right wing really buy it. You never buy it. Even Salty Cracker says it all the time. Any of us who we finally said, no, Obama's definitely full of shit. And then we're hearing this guy Ron Paul, and we're hearing somebody who's a libertarian, and we're like, well, this guy who's a libertarian, okay, I don't know, he posts these really good articles, and what's the deal with libertarians, and so once, and I'd heard them interviewed by Tom Hartman. Tom Hartman would shit all over the libertarians, and he would talk over them, and he would find the most awkward Spurgatroyd ever, who would have it. Tom, you see, yeah, actually, Tom, excuse me, Tom, can you hear me? Hello, and you're just like, oh my God, how do you find these people to interview? And then eventually I figured it out. It was that everyone hates Tom Hartman because he's full of shit and he talks over you. And it's always the same nonsense. And that he's actually just a socialist he's always trying to wrap himself in, he's owned a business at some point, and yeah. So, after knowing so much about the left, somebody like me, I come in and I'm like, these right-wingers talk a lot about stuff being done to kids. This is really odd. Like, and they, but it's not, it wasn't even, this is like, if there's 5 parts to the right wing, it's one part that was doing this. The far right. And every once in a while they would have, like, dirt. Like, they would have some dirt on something. And you'd be like, wow, you have to really know some shit to have looked into this. And so you would find out, like, that's the end where, like, you find a lot of military people, a lot of very scholarly people who have a real hard time with the world around them, and kind of spurgatroid. But at certain points, it was like, wait a second, this is just a collection. This is just literally a data pool of arrests and reports of people who do things to kids, and they've uniquely picked out the oddest part of the pattern. In public schools, there's an inordinately high number of women who go after little girls. This is the part that changes everything. This is why where you fucked up, Chunk. You fucked up Chunky Time. Because you see, you needed to not go so hard in the paint. You needed one of them to pull Anna to pull you out. She needed to be like, oh, hold on, homie, don't talk about Beanie Man like that. They always do. No, hold on a second. Let me talk a bunch of shit, But you fucked up, and you protested way too hard. Like, you really went places that it's like, so this is where your mind is. See, you guys never get this on the left. When we get any kind of win on the right, you guys say these things. This is something that it used to take me chilling at some spot and, having pints, and somebody would say something that I'm like, that's pretty fucking insane. And eventually it started to be like these women would say feminist stuff, and they would just run off at the mouth in a way that I'm like, oh, really? And I was, what the fuck is wrong with these people? Like, these people are fucked up. And then talking to somebody, I'm like, I don't know. They have their own thing that they do. This, that, or the other person said, oh, they're probably going to, and some word. I'm like, what? Oh, okay, like taking pharmies. What? Pharmaceutical drugs. What? Wait, what? Because there's a whole generation, especially these millennials, that's where I just detected it, who they were into a lot of, they really knew their pharmaceutical drugs. And I had met somebody who they were kind of like the drugstore cowboy type back in the day of sorts, but never really understood like that was a part of the culture, are people who abuse pharmaceutical drugs. And I realized, I'm like, because motherfucker, you're too poor. You've always been too poor. You knew
about drank and you knew about dank. That's what it was. Everything else was for crazy people. That was crazy people drugs. Um, yeah. So something I found then very fascinating was it was okay. So there's this part about liberal culture that I didn't understand, and every once in a while this comes out, and I'm like, thank goodness. So now you people know. Like, I knew about Antifa a long, long time ago. And like Sharps and Rash and all that. I knew about all those kind of groups. Like, I knew people were about that shit. And I was like, no, I'm no politics. Let's just enjoy the night. I work, I collect records, I I do that which, and I lift weights and do that which entertains me. No, I don't do weird leftist political organizing to go find people and go get them. No, that's not my bag, bro. And that's not my that's not my thing. Um, and so I started to like find, okay, you guys didn't really know much about Antifa, and then I'm realizing that I would have a conversation. It was one of them. It was Arceon, where I'm like, no, no, no. When you see them, you see this patch on their jackets. This is the band. And I was showing them Dead Kennedys in San Francisco in 1979. I think it was 79 or 81. But I mean, that was a fucking crazy show in North Beach, and I mean, that was the real days, and Angelo Biafra in his full glory, where he's doing his thing and guys are just skanking right past him, missing him by an inch and leaping into the crowd. That was the real thing back in those days. And I'm like, no, I've seen things like this. I've seen nights like this. I'm like, no, really, this is what they want, but they can't recreate it. They can't quite recreate it. And the reason they can't recreate it is because every time is unique unto itself. And so what they have now is this really weird punk scene that is not fun in any way. Nobody looks at them and thinks, wow, they're having fun. And yeah, and they can't create, none of their bands can kind of become a thing. It's Tim Pool is probably more yeah, Tom McDonald and Tim Pool are now more widely known punk rocky kind of, and people be, yeah, that's punk rock, yeah, Tom McDonald, I guess, I don't know, he kind of looks like one, so, but, kind of looks like one, but, that, I mean, Tim Pool is playing with Rancid, that's gotta fucking hurt people, that's gotta hurt people's feelings, God, that's gotta hurt some motherfuckers' feelings, so, the to see then Chank doing the thing where, oh, he does it, and I'm going to go even further, and I'm going to go even crazier, and I'm going to say all conservatives are like this, and I'm going to take it there. It's, there's so many people on 4chan now going, okay, what is he up to? Like, where does he live? Where does he hang out? Who is his wife? Who's his family? Like, who is this guy? Because you get a feeling. You can't protest that hard. You can't fucking take it that far. I love it. I love Ethan Klein fucked up too. I love there's these two, and everything about them is just ew. Like, you look at Tim and you're like, well, unfortunately, because of his height, he just simply has a lot of disadvantages in the dating scene. And then, it seems he has male pattern baldness. Which is not, that's very normal. It's um, but but I mean, Cenk and like Ethan Klein are like both like they're the kind of people who you expect to see in a photo when somebody's talking about people abusing children in London. Like these were the guys at the Snooker Hall, all the time. Yeah, the they they were major leaders of this gang of gross brohams, of gross Mohammedans. And I mean, they're just gross looking dudes, and um, they're just ugly men. And with their charisma is all fucked up. So it's just, you just sit there and you're just like, God damn, And I remember hearing Cenk from the old days. I was following him from the oldest days when he was first on Blue State Radio. I know this motherfucker. I'm just like, God, you have such a weak game, dog. It's the weakest game. Like, you're so whack, dog. Holy shit. Like, so, and that's the other thing about it. I have to think about with Hassan and with Chunk. One, I just want to bring up the reason I got kicked off of Twitter is I think it was, I definitely pissed Hassan off when I asked if he had gotten any money from the government COVID booster, like when they were trying to boost getting the COVID shot. Well, there was like a $1 billion program where they gave a bunch of people fucking money, influencers, and all kinds of people, try to boost getting people to go and get the shot. So I think that might have been actually what made him. That, and then the other was there was the Muslims in Ann Arbor, I believe, who were objecting to all the pedophile shit that was being taught to their kids. And I said, Hassan, why don't you just explain to them it's all good, bro, because they could just grow up to be, Muslim guys could just grow up to date porn girls. And because, of course, that's his, that's his story, and a good Muslim boy dates porn girl. And so one of those, I think, is what really got me kicked off. But we'll see. So the thing about now, oh yeah, the Catholic, because conservatives would be on the side of Catholicism, so that's technically traditionalists. Catholic traditionalists would be into traditional Catholicism, and there is a concept of an authority, that you have a moral and religious authority, spiritual authority in a priest, because that's their bailiwick. But this idea that there's some kind of weird, like, you must worship them, or there's some kind of veneration of them, or something like that. It was really weird, the way that he was kind of like, oh yeah, the priests and the Boy Scouts, and I'm just sitting there and I'm like, these are two organizations that if you're on the right, they talk a lot of shit about these two hierarchies. The Boy Scouts, that's Freemasons. I don't understand how people don't know that. I mean, to the point where it's like, no, really, it's you go through the Boy Scouts, become an Eagle Scout, and it's usually you become a Freemason after that. I mean, like, that's who invented the Boy Scouts. And then with the Catholic Church and all that, the way that Cenk was talking about it, and then also Ethan Klein apparently was this idea that people are okay
with all kinds of assaults on children because, well, they're priests. And it's like, no, these were inordinately likely to be gay people. I was there. This was Boston, New York, and San Francisco, right? Yeah, they were notorious hubs of gay clergy to this very day, to the point where the New York diocese might go bankrupt from having to deal with all the cases of HIV and AIDS that these old priests have, these retired priests. That's from the vortex itself. If you don't know, you don't know. And San Francisco, this was well known. The whole reason why this was even found out, this was found out by, like, the lion of the left is who exposed it all. This very left end of center Catholic, who also felt that no, he felt Catholicism, he argued hard as hell for this. This guy was amazing in his presentation of his theology. But he lost it all, looking into these priests. So I was there. I was there to see all of this start. I was there to see all the various stages it went through. And no, it's that the idea, it's widely understood in the culture, especially when you're around Catholics, that a lot of these men are gay men, and that they were sent into the priesthood because it was a way that they could be a part of the community, serve the community. It was traditional, and also it was that they could deal with their issues. And everyone tried to keep it polite. Their issues. They're a little, he's a little, he's kind of a sissy, and so this allows them to do something extremely important for the culture. But this all went horribly wrong when, and there's really, I have books on how there was heavy infiltration by various types of socialist thinkers and stuff into Catholicism post, really, it was about the 30s. It was because of the socialist popularity in the 30s. And because socialists, they're fascism, and then you get the Vatican, the Vatican problem, and then the Vatican solution. That's why you have Vatican City. That was solved by that was what socialists. It was socialism, because fascism is a branch of socialism. It's a branch of hard socialism. So the whole thing of these sort of sexual deviants harming children, and that, it's the rabbis, the priests, these people with institutional power. It's like everyone wants to act like this. Once you know anything about looking out for stories from public schools, you find this. I mean, you find this a lot. You find them a lot. And there was something called the Big List. And it really, I think it was in the 2014, 2015, I lost track of it. But the Big List was a website that somebody just kept adding these women who were abusing typically girls. And that's too much for people. That is, this is, one, we can't talk about criminality. The left can't talk about criminality because at some point a lot of these men, they're broken. They're born kind of broken. It doesn't matter the socialization. They're fucking broken. And they came out of their mama's pussy broken. Yeah, because mama's pussy was broken. That's the way people would think about it. That's why we don't judge him, because then we'd be judging her. Everything goes back, just like Taoism. Look at the mother. That's how it works. Anybody who knows shit about Chinese medicine, is it being fed by the mother? Is the son being fed by the mother? Is the mother being supported by the grandmother? And so, is the mother in balance with the father? And that is the wife in balance with the husband? So, and people who don't understand that Chinese medical reference, it's just the way it is. That's the way the Taoist world works. That's why grandmothers are so important, and maternal lineage is so important. What we are really seeing is now this misunderstanding, and it's really because if we were to really deal with people who mess around with children, obviously we would have to deal with a lot of women. We'd have to sort a lot of women out of society. And thirsty punks like Chunk can't handle that. So he's going to wax tough on somebody who's probably somewhere around, his height. But, Chunk probably outweighs him like by twice, So yeah, there's now also the whole issue of Trump, during the Trump era, all these pedophiles being put away, the FBI crushing a lot of these rings, and you would see this pop up if you were following the FBI feeds on it. Since Elon took over Twitter, people who are actual activists pointing out this is how you find abuse of children on Twitter, and that's been vanishing. People have been making complaints for well on a decade now to YouTube about that type of stuff all over YouTube. Nothing happens. Big time Democratic supporters and voters, Google is, Alphabet is. And so it's just one of these things after a while. It's like, you doth protest too much. It's going to be interesting to see what this, it's start that clock. That's really where we're at, aren't we? We're at start the clock. Start the clock. I wish I knew where that soundbite came from. But yeah, because that's what this is now with both, and apparently with Ethan Klein and with fucking Chunky. Start the clock. There's something about these fucking guys. They ain't right, and apparently there's something about them that ain't right, and it's because everybody saw all those crazy little bits and pieces that came out over the years of, oh, this girl is in a photo with this rapper and this person and this person and this person, and so it was a lot of this kind of stuff like that would make that girl 16 when she's hanging out with that white rapper, so it's, and so there's these people who you're like, boy, this person like really hates Donald Trump. And then there's a certain rapper from Long Beach who hates the fuck out of Donald Trump. And what does everybody remember about the beginning of his career? Oh yeah, he seems to have possibly been involved with the founding of that giant black porn network, because that was like one of his first publications was like him chilling while there was like a porn going or something, porn being made, So it's, a lot of us started to put together like years of, I don't think these guys are just enjoying a little bit of debauchery. I think there's something even worse going on here. And that every once in a while they start freaking out. They just hate the fuck out of somebody who's going to catch them up. And they doth protested too much. And so we'll see though. We'll see as time goes on. We'll start seeing what comes of it all. All right. Have a happy Thanksgiving. This was just running around in my head. A lot of this stuff. At some point, I got to go in. I'll go into the B'nai Baruch Kabbalah thing. You could look them up. Just look them up, B'nai Baruch. like when you see on YouTube all these Kabbalah people, like one of these major people, like it's an interesting story. It's interesting character, um, interesting organization, because you also might remember the Israeli moon landing. Yeah, he's there. He's in the room. Like when they showed it, and there's like Netanyahu or whoever. He's there. He's like chilling. Like, yeah. Well, all right.